Well, if you ask me over the last, 12 years or so, who's my favorite person to interview? I got a lot of UFC has a lot of great guys, but this guy right here is one of the best there is, Michael Chiesa. Mike, good to see you. You fighting, UFC 310, let's get that correct, against Max Payne Griffin in Las Vegas on December 7th. How are you, pal?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to be talking to you. And there's, one of the greats, Kevin Iole. I love talking to you, man. It's been a long, storied career between you and I. But yeah, I'm really excited to get back to Las Vegas and compete at T-Mobile. Vegas has, over the years, has become. I used to say it's like my second home, but now it has
Yeah.
become my second home, um, and I get a fight on my birthday, which is something new.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, I turned 37 on December 7th. So yeah, I'm excited, man. Max is a super tough guy. He's a total stud. We've always gotten along in passing, me and Jim West and Anthony Hernandez. Great team, great group of guys. And Max is it's a tough test. I feel like he's very, very underrated. And I'd be a fool to underestimate him. So I'm anticipating a very tough fight on my birthday. Happy birthday to me. I get to lock myself in an octagon with a guy that wants to take my head off. So
I was out there eating pizza and drinking beer, so look at the difference,
there you
on the
go.
birthdays, right?
Yeah.
Let's just hope that December 7th is not a date that lives in infamy. If you're
Yeah.
if you're a historian, you would get
There you
that,
go.
right?
That's right. Absolutely.
So it must be a little different for you going up against Max Griffin. You fought Tony Ferguson the last time out, a fight that you really needed to win, right? Coming
Yeah.
off 3 losses in a row,
Yeah.
huge fight for you in your career, and now you're fighting a guy that's one of the most beloved fighters in the UFC, and that I think everybody wanted to see get a win. So that had to be difficult for you going into that fight against Tony Ferguson, wasn't it?
A little bit, it's I can't tell you. For one, I've always known that Tony's one of the more loved fighters in the UFC. But after getting booked against him and having that fight announced, it went from him being one of the most beloved to probably the most beloved. My DMs got flooded with like really mean stuff, which I choose not to say, and other guys being like, "Look, just you throw the fight for us, please." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can't do that. And for Tony, it's one of those things where you have to prepare for the best version of him. You
Right.
can't look at the skid that he's on and just think that you're in for an easy fight. That would be very, very foolish. So I trained like I was fighting the guy I was supposed to fight in 2016, the boogeyman. I trained for that Tony Ferguson, and I anticipated that fight. And Daniel Cormier gave me a very valuable piece of advice. He said, if you start to steamroll him, don't you dare for a second give him a lick of sympathy. You go out there and you put him away,
Right.
because if you start to be sympathetic and lay off the gas and let him back in that fight, that could, you could pay the price and lose. So I had to just get it drilled in my head that I'm in for a tough fight. And if it's not what I think it is, you just got to get out there and put him away. And I think that obviously between me and my sports psychologist, we're not supposed to talk about the R word, but since I'm talking to Kevin, we'll bring it up. Not only if I would have lost to Tony, but if I would have had a really tough fight, if I would have had to fight him tooth and nail for 15 minutes, that probably would have been my last fight.
Wow.
And so, but the thing is, over the year, my biggest problem has been up here. I know I have a world-class set of skills. I know I train properly. My biggest detriment to myself has always been what goes on between the ears. So over the course of the year between the Kevin Holland fight and the Tony Ferguson fight, really spent a lot of time talking to my uncle and correcting that.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't feel that pressure going into the Tony fight, like, dude, you better win or you're retiring, So I told my wife, I said, the longer this fight goes is going to determine the duration that I have left competing in this sport. And so when I got done fighting Tony, the first thing she said to me was, let me guess, you're not retiring anytime soon. I said, hell no, business is booming. We're back. So I
Not
feel
after a win
good,
like
man.
that.
Yeah, and it's like at the end of the day, nobody's done that to Tony Ferguson. Nobody's went out there and put him away the way that I did. And I think that, to me, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, but to me, that was a testament to show that I'm still world class. And I intend to show that I'm world class on December 7th.
You talked about the, the mindset and having a sports psychologist that you have to talk to and everything. You also fought Diego Sanchez, who was another guy like who was kind of different than everybody else, right? Who was hugely popular. And I think when you fought him, if I'm not mistaken, that was in the Joshua Fabia time when things were really crazy. So when you're fighting guys like that, that they're a little bit different than the rest of the crew, does that require any changes on your part or any adjustments in how you approach the fight, knowing that they're different than the rest of the, most of you guys are kind of like clones in what you say and what you do in terms of being ready, and then you got guys like those two.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, for one, you have to prepare to be. Doesn't matter where the fight is, you're going to be in enemy territory. Diego Sanchez, Tony Ferguson. The kookier you are, the more you're loved. I think
Yes.
that's just like a commonality between like the quirky fighters are like the ones that everyone loves the most, and I can see why. But it's more within the camp. Just like I've been with the same coach my whole career, and it's
Right.
him. He'll just throw a curveball because I'll watch film, but he will obsessively watch film, and so he'll tell a guy like, hey, I want you to randomly go out and throw this move, or I want you to randomly do this thing. Like I had guys is this, I'm not saying this just to be like comical, but I did have guys do the sand toss to me during sparring for the Tony Ferguson fight. And it wasn't even to be funny. It was like Rick would pull him aside and be like, hey, like halfway through this round, I want you to do the sand toss thing. And it's like, you got to see these things. Otherwise you're going to get caught off guard in the
Right.
fight. And on that note, I'll make this quick. Diego Sanchez, did you hear the story about the move he asked if it was legal in the locker room the night of our
Yes,
fight?
yes.
So you have to prepare for the unexpected. And I talked to the referee, and I don't want to say his name. I talked to him, and he, after the fight, explained to me the move that they were asking if it's legal or not. And A, it's legal. And B, if you think in a million years you would ever get me in something like that, you are out of your mind. So
Yeah.
only Diego Sanchez and Josh Fabia would come up with some crap like that.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was in one of your great runs, right? That you
Yeah.
were in the middle of then. So
Yeah.
I think it was your third out of four in a row, was it?
That was my second. My 4-fight win streak was Condit, Diego, RDA, Neil Magny.
Yeah. So you're coming off, one of the winningest fighters. Yeah. So you had an amazing run at that point. How do you see yourself right now? Right. I know most of the time everybody talks about they want to be in the top 10, they want to win the championship and all that. Given where you are and given your age and given the fact that you're pretty highly regarded on the broadcast side, right? You may have a career going forward doing this long term. How do you view the rest of your career? Like, do you still set the goal of being the champion or do you have to change that because of circumstance?
No, nothing changes. I think that for guys that aren't chasing a title, like, what are you doing here? It's like, I think that, and that's something that, like, that's what Sean Shelby and McMahon and Dana White, that's what they want to hear. They want every guy on this roster to be gunning for a world championship. So for me, and obviously the goal remains the same, but I'm taking my focus away from it a little bit. And I think that was part of the thing that I needed to do to just kind of get my feet back underneath me. It's like I'm on a 4-fight win streak, and then I fight Vicente and I lose, and it's like, okay, all right, now I got to beat Sean Brady because I got to hold my spot. I beat him, and I got to hold my. Oh my God, I got to beat Kevin Holland. Some 2-fight lose streak. I can't lose the number next to my name and get away from the title. And then it's like, if I still was so focused on just the title, like I was for the majority of my UFC career, I would be in like an all-time low, I would just be, because I'm so far away from it right now. But the goal remains the same. I'm just taking it fight by fight instead of looking so far ahead. It's like,
Sure.
It's good to look a little ways ahead. Like, I like to start mapping out who I want to call out. And I've always kind of done that. And, I know that they're talking about UFC Seattle next year. So that's kind of been on my mind more than what my manager would like me to be thinking about it, because I ask him about it all the time. But I just don't dwell on the title too much. Stay focused on being in the moment and taking it fight by fight. And then when the fight's over, you can move on from there. So for me, it's all about setting small goals outside of the championship and then just being a lot more present. I think that being so focused on the title took me away from being like present in the moment with my training, with my preparation, and just focusing on things that are more important here and now than things that could potentially be happening down the line. So it's all about being focused on being in the present moment.
Max's nickname is Pain, and that's if you're somebody going up to fight him, probably not a good thing to be thinking of going into that fight. But he's got that great striking that he has always had and always brought to the thing. So, do you think that this is going to be a thing where, hey, Michael Chiesa has to get this fight to the ground and kind of get him out of his element as quickly as possible?
It's funny that you bring that up, because I think that a lot of people that watch my fights would say that. But a lot of people that know me and train with me are like, when the fuck are you just going to quit trying to take people down and just do what you do in the gym? Because I'm a lot more polished on the feet than I've shown, but it's not one of those things where like, I'm always going to stick to plan A. I'm always going to stay true to myself. But when the opportunity presents itself, I have a lot of skills that I haven't shown. It's not like, when the kickboxing sparring days, it's not like I'm a fish out of water, so I think that, and one thing is, while my striking output is not, if you go, by the metrics, if you go to the UFC PI, go by the metrics, like, yeah, my striking offense isn't the best because I don't really go out to strike, I go out to grapple, but my defense is very good. I'm one of the least hit guys, if not the least hit guy at welterweight. So, I do pride myself in being able to avoid power punches and not take hard shots. And that kind of segues into like my broadcasting career. Can't really speak well on a microphone if you get your noodle, socked up too much. But, so if push comes to shove and I can't take him down, I got to strike, I'm confident I can win the fight on the feet as well. It's just all about, he's got a very, very powerful right hand, and it's very sharp. He can throw it long. He can throw it short. He's constantly moving. I anticipate that he is going to be a little more evasive to try to get me out of position, to try to get me lumbering forward and off balance, to look for these takedowns, and probably look for his counters. I don't anticipate him fighting a little more flat-footed and fishing for the knockout. I think he's going to be looking for the counter. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited. I'm excited for the challenges that he presents. And, in kind of the one thing I didn't address, I know you asked about the broadcasting thing, and I think it's a matter of time before I'm a UFC commentator. I say that humbly, but I say that confidently. I just know that right now I still just have too much tread left on my tires,
right, to
pack it in and just focus on that. Like I don't think I'd ever forgive myself. So I'm just focused on competing, working as much as I can. I work once a month. I'm going to Edmonton this weekend. And so I love it, man. I love that my life revolves around the sport, Kevin. I never would have thought.
I know. I nobody loves it as much as you. I know there's some that love it as much as you, but not more than you.
Man, I look back, dude, to like 12 years ago, coming off the Ultimate Fighter. Like I never thought that this is where I'd be. I've almost climbed to the top of the mountain in 2 weight classes. I get to call fights on the regional scene. I work for ESPN. I work for the UFC as an analyst. Sometimes it just doesn't feel real. So I'm soaking it in. This is a fun time in my career to like, I know I only have a limited amount of time left, but this has been right now it's the funnest time. I got a win under my belt again. Business is booming on the broadcasting side. Business is booming on the competitive side. It's just a really fun time right now for me.
How can you not love a guy that loves what he does so much like Michael does? Last question for you. The fact that the main event is Shavkat Rakhmonov against Belal Muhammad, your weight class, your division, I think there's some parallels to you and Belal in a lot of ways, right? In terms of what happened. So does fighting on a card where the title is going to be decided that night, does that give you a little extra juice? Like, because now you're going to be able to walk out and sit there and see it up close.
Absolutely. And it's like a welterweight showcase. You got Randy Brown fighting Brian Battle as well. You got some fun welterweight fights, but yeah, it is fun to go out there and compete, get the job done early and then see who walks away with that welterweight title. When it comes to that fight in particular, obviously, a lot of people are already saying that Shavkat's the uncrowned champ. He's 10 submissions, 8 knockouts, 18-0 all finishes. But people, the lack of respect for Belal Muhammad is just mind-boggling. Like, look at
for the record, I picked him against Leon Edwards. I just want that noted.
Smart guy, because you look at his strength of schedule. Like, dude, the guy, I can remember it off the top of my head. He fought Damian Maia when Damian was ranked. He's got Damian Maia, Wonder Boy, Vicente Luque, Gilbert Burns, First guy to finish Sean Brady. Who is the other one? There's another
Leon.
guy. Leon Edwards. Like, look at those 6 fights, dude. Like, so before people want to go count out Shavkat Rakhmonov, look at Belal's strength of schedule and ask yourself, is it really going to be a blowout? Does Shavkat really win that fight? I don't know. I do know that Shavkat's going to be the toughest test of the 6 guys I just named. He's going to be the tougher test than all 6 of those guys. But Belal Muhammad's the guy that can step up and take that O from him. So I'm not one to count Belal Muhammad out of a fight ever. I was one of the few people clamoring for him to get the next title fight. I'm like, this is the guy that should be next, for not just because of the win streak, but because he's just that good.
You see why the guy's on TV right now. Michael Chiesa, UFC 310 on his birthday, December 7th. Appreciate you, brother. Wish you the best. Always good to see you.
Appreciate you, brother. Take it easy. I'll see you soon.
See you soon.